Hey everyone, welcome back to another election predictions video. Today we're going to be talking about the 2022 gubernatorial races in the states that are up for grabs in these midterm elections. A lot of these states are going to be interesting to look at, and we're going to keep an eye on them as we enter into this 2022 midterm cycle. A lot of these states haven't even had their primaries yet, so bear with me as we go through this, and we're going to just look at some of these states overall and what we're thinking about them and how that's going to affect the midterms in the long run. A lot of these states are going to be very interesting, and ultimately that's just going to lead into us really not knowing exactly who will win certain races, such as like Arizona, a race that I really don't know how to characterize. We're seeing where Kari Lake is expected to win that nomination. She hasn't even won her nomination. If she does, that'll happen at the beginning of next month, but is expected to at this point, is only leading Katie Hobbs by around 55% chance of winning to Katie Hobbs' 45% chance of winning. And we're going to keep an eye on these races really because they're going to matter. They're going to affect these midterms a lot. Two factors that I think are going to play the most into these are that Roe versus Wade decision that was made just last month to overturn Roe versus Wade, and also the Virginia and New Jersey gubernatorial elections that happened just a few months ago in November of 2021, where Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin now won that race in a really shocking win to many. It wasn't expected that he would win that until the very end. And New Jersey's race was much, much, much closer than people expected. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead into us questioning how these midterms are going to go and how much polling we can actually trust. But today we're going to be talking all about the midterms and the governorships and talking about what state is going to have Republican or Democratic control in that governor's mansion come around January of 2023. And we're going to dive into it and see what we think. We're going to start with the state of Nevada, where Steve Scalise is leading Joe Lombardo. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry about that. But he is leading him around 58% to his 42%. At this point, it is expected that Nevada goes blue, but again, I will say it like I always do, a lot is yet to happen until November. And ultimately, this race is going to be close. We see in polling that, in recent polls, the Democrat has been winning, but we've also seen in polls where the Republican has won. So ultimately, this race is really just hard to predict at this point. It's one of those races that I'm like, okay, I think it's going to go blue, but there's still that small chance that it does go red as well. At this point in my prediction as of July, right after Roe has been overturned, this is my first prediction regarding that. I believe that the Democrats will win in the state of Nevada. This puts them at 21 gubernatorial governor mansions, I'll just say it like that, to the Republicans' 23. We still have a lot of states to go through. The next I'm going to talk about is Arizona, where Kari Lake hasn't even won the nomination yet, but is expected to, and is losing in polls, but FiveThirtyEight has her winning this race, 55% chance to Katie Hobbs' 45%. And I think it's interesting because polling does not suggest that this race is going to be in Kari Lake's favor. Obviously, the only polls that have been done, because the primaries are still underway, are a couple of Democratic pollsters and then one Republican pollster. The last polling that was done, nonpartisan, was done months ago around November 10th and ultimately had Katie Hobbs winning at that point. But I'm not 100% sure. But at this point in time, with Arizona the way it is and the polling not being as accurate as we can predict, I believe that FiveThirtyEight is right, and I believe Kari Lake will win it as of July. If the election was held today, I believe Kari Lake would win in the state of Arizona and go into that governor's mansion. Now, I do want to point out the current governor of Arizona did endorse Kari Lake's challenger. I will scroll up here real quick. Karen Robson, was endorsed by Doug Ducey, who is the current governor of Arizona. President Trump and others call him a rhino. So ultimately, this race is going to be very close and very interesting. But at this point, Kari Lake is expected to win it. The next race we're going to talk about is Kansas. Kansas is one of those races that Laura Kelly is the current incumbent. She won that back in 2018 in that Democratic environment, and ultimately is going to be in trouble come these midterms. Derek Schmidt, I believe is how you pronounce it, I'm not 100% sure, is winning the Republican as the Republican at this point, and 538 does have this going to the Republicans with a 56% chance of winning to Laura Kelly's 43% chance of winning. So at this point, I believe this is going to be a Republican win, a Republican pickup, but a lot again has yet to happen. The next state we're going to talk about is Greg Abbott's home state. Greg Abbott is running for re-election in Texas, and this is going to be one of those races that a lot of people are going to be keeping their eye on. Greg Abbott has been doing not as well in polls recently. Beto O'Rourke has been catching up to him. As we can see, Beto O'Rourke is only 5% behind Greg Abbott, but I'm doing this as if the election was held today, and at this point, Greg Abbott would still win that, and that's even predicted by Solid R in 538's polling, 97% chance that Greg Abbott wins that race. And I think that's no surprise. Greg Abbott will probably win the governor's mansion in Texas. But it's wrong to underestimate Beto O'Rourke, who in 2018, during that Senate election, shocked everyone when he had a much closer race against Ted Cruz than originally expected. And Ted Cruz did win, but Beto O'Rourke did very well. You may also recognize Beto O'Rourke from the 2020 Democratic presidential primaries. He ultimately did drop out, though, and that gives us to where we are today, where Joe Biden is president of the United States. The next state we're going to talk about is the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is one of those states where Tony Evers is the current governor, has a 64% chance of winning, and is going to most likely face Rebecca. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name because I've already butchered a lot. But Tony Evers is going to face a Republican in this race, and ultimately, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the primary for Wisconsin hasn't even happened at this point, so we're not 100% sure that this will be the candidate, but Tony Evers is expected to win the Democratic nomination. I would about bet he's not facing any challenge against that. But Tony Evers is doing traditionally well in polls, and ultimately I believe this will be a Democratic win, and Tony Evers will go back to the governor's mansion in Wisconsin. Another state we're going to talk about is Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of those states that also is another one that we are going to focus on a lot because Doug Mastriano is a Trump-endorsed candidate who won the nomination and ultimately is not doing as well in polls as others could in the state of Pennsylvania. I think Doug Mastriano is a weaker candidate that the Republicans could have picked. Josh Shapiro is a very good candidate for the Democrats, and I believe ultimately Josh Shapiro will win this race, and I don't really think that would be a shock to many people at all. I believe this will be a Democratic win. The Democrats will keep Pennsylvania's governor's mansion, but Doug Mastriano is very close in polls, 46% to 49%, just 3% behind in 3% behind in those polls. And 538 has Josh Shapiro at a 74% chance of winning to Doug Mastriano's 26% chance of winning. But ultimately, I do believe this race will be closer than people expected, even though I do think that Doug Mastriano is a weaker candidate for the Republican side. And the last state that we're going to have to characterize and talk about is the state of Georgia. Georgia is one of those states where Brian Kemp and Stacey Abrams are facing off yet again. They faced each other in 2018. Stacey Abrams really helped the Biden campaign win Georgia in 2020 and help those two Senate elections out to win back control of the United States Senate in 2020, making some historic legislation pass through Congress since then. And Joe Biden has been able to pass things since he does have that majority. Obviously, because he still has that filibuster. There is a lot that the Democrats would like to expand their majority in 2022 for this race. But we're going to focus on polling specifically in the state of Georgia between Stacey Abrams and Brian Kemp. This is a race that I'm shocked Stacey Abrams entered into, because she knew it would be an uphill battle for her, and ultimately that's just proving itself yet again, where Brian Kemp is leading 7% in polls, doing even better than he was in 2022, and will probably do better and outperform his 2018 election cycle when he won that race back then. And 538 has this at a likely R, with Brian Kemp at an 86% chance of winning to Stacey Abrams' 14% chance of winning. Ultimately, the Republicans will most likely win this race in Georgia, putting the Republicans at 27 governor's mansions to the Democrats' 23 governor's mansions. The Democrats have expanded a majority. If we look at their current majority, they currently have 22 seats, so the Republicans would have lost seats in this prediction. Only one seat, I believe, that they would have lost, but it is one seat that the Democrats were able to flip. So ultimately, this is my final prediction for these 2022 gubernatorial election predictions. I'm really happy that you all chose to watch this video. Thank you all so much. If you're interested in helping out anywhere in the American Elections team, we're looking for extra help. DM me on Instagram, and we'll get to talking and see where you'd be best to fit at if you're interested in that stuff. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and now TikTok, where all of our handles are the same, and they will be linked below, where you can find us easily right there. Thank you all again so much for watching. Give me your thoughts on these governor races down below, and I will see you all in the next video.